Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on, everybody? Once again, as we said, we are live. Just checking in with those of you who rock with us. So, for those of you who do not know, my name is Ray Destin Jr. I'm the founder and CEO of BOBM Publishing LLC. We're a full service publishing house that has helped the last 308 authors that we've worked with all go to number one on Amazon. So this video is specifically for my new and experienced authors, even some of you out there who have to write for, whether you got to write for school, you got to write for work, you got to write for proposals, whatever it is that you have to write. This video will help you become a better writer overall. So thank you for tuning in. If you tuned in with me live, go ahead and do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that heart button, and share it so that we can help other people out there just like you and me get those books out of their heads onto the paper so they can help people like us, right? So today's topic is one that is it's really easy for an experienced writer, and at the same time not as easy for a brand new writer. Writing can be challenging if you've never written a book, if you've never written a term paper, if you've never written something of a high level magnitude that required a certain level of technical know-how, or you weren't being judged for the quality of your content. So for those of you who do want to go on and become better writers, this one is specifically for you. And you know who you are. We all make those mistakes with our writing, and there's small areas that we can improve daily. Just a small step, inch by inch, everything becomes a cinch, and you'll become a better writer if you just apply a few of these trips, not these trips, but a few of these tips, right? So one of the first things is as y'all know, let me go backwards. As y'all know, what I'm going to do is go high level. I'm going to give you the answers, and then I'm going to break it down when I come back. So first things first, to become a better writer, information intake. You should be on consistent information intake. Information can be found in so many different various forms. One of the things that I'm not going to recommend is just spending a lot of time in front of the TV doing this. Just because you're watching a documentary or just because you're watching the latest show, that doesn't mean that you're growing mentally. So some of the types of information intake include reading 30 minutes per day, at least 30 minutes per day. Audiobooks, listening to audiobooks. I'll go back into that. Podcast. There's some great podcasts out there about all different types of content that you can listen to. Newspapers, magazines, and blogs. Read them, especially if they're in your lane. These things will help you to become better at writing, because what you intake is what you're going to output, right? And then the next thing is paying attention to detail. There's a few things that you want to pay attention to, and I'm going to break down a whole lot of things, a lot of mistakes that we've found from the submissions that we've gotten from several of our authors. What were the things that were common amongst multiple authors, multiple times, over and over and over again? And then the last thing is I want to give you some tools so that you can walk away with a better understanding, or not a better understanding, but a better place to look and find those that help you improve your writing. There are some actual apps, and there's some tools that you can plug into your computer, you can plug into your phone, that will make you seem like a rock star when it comes down to writing. So let's go back and start at the beginning. Information intake. I want to say about 5 years ago, I was talking to one of my mentors, Sean Hardiman, and he said it this way. He said, if you think about it, he said, I used to listen to music all the time. And I was listening to music because, everybody loves music. Everybody loves to get their body rock on. They love to get that salsa. They love to get that Texas two-step on, whatever. He said, but what I started doing was I started listening to audiobooks and podcasts. He said, when I'm driving to and fro, and if you think about it, your trip to work or your trip, if you're going out of town or something like that, that's a lot of time that you spend in the car. What are you listening to when you're in your car? That's valuable time that you could be plugging in and listening to something that's going to help you grow. He said a year's worth of travel time, listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts, listening to on audio information intake. What that does is it gives you the equivalent of the information that you would take in to get your master's degree in college. Think about that. That's a lot of information that you are taking in because you're specializing in one specific subject. So while you're listening, you're growing, you're gaining more stories, you're gaining more expertise, you're gaining more technical tips from people that are already in the field, that are already in the industry, and they are helping you to grow. So what you take in automatically becomes something that you're going to help others with, because now you have information that you just put into your head. Those audiobooks and podcasts go in that same category as the information intake. Reading 30 minutes per day in school, and this goes back to grade school. It says something as simple as read 30 minutes per day. Now, the reason that they ask kids to read 30 minutes per day is because it expands your vocabulary. It allows you to experience new things. It allows you to grow as a person, not just as an author, but as a person. You begin to grow because you are reading something that somebody else wrote. You're getting different ideas. You're getting different viewpoints. You're getting a chance to see the world through someone else's pen, which is through their eyes. Magazines, newspapers, blogs. Again, this goes back to the subject that you are specifically niching into. Now, when you read those magazines and those newspapers, get you a subscription to, I have a subscription to Writer's Digest. Why? Because I want to know what's going on in the field of writing, what's going on in the publishing industry. Who are some of the superstars to look for that I need to connect with, right? Newspapers. Read if you're a business person, read the business section. I remember in 1999, I went to the Black Man Think Tank conference that was in Cincinnati, and the keynote speaker was Dick Gregory. I'm sitting front row, and I got Dick Gregory right in front of me. And Dick Gregory said something that has impacted me to this day. He said, every morning I wake up, I read every newspaper that was written that day. The reason that I'm reading every newspaper that's written that day is because I want to be able to form my own opinions about things that are going on. I want to be informed, and I want to hear it from different perspectives. I want to know exactly what's going on in the world around me, so that one news story or one media station is not influencing the way that I think on a consistent basis. You're smart enough to think for yourself. You should be reading those newspapers on a consistent basis so that you're taking in information that helps you to grow and go to the next level daily. Read blogs. There are a lot of up and coming bloggers. There are a lot of up and coming writers. There are a lot of established writers that are experts in your field. And what they are sharing on a consistent basis are things that you can pull from as you're writing. You may not have all the stories from your own personal life that you can pull from. You may not have a bunch of friends that you can share their stories of success or their stories of growth. But you may have something that you read in a blog, something that you read in a newspaper, something that you read in a magazine that you can refer back to. But make sure that when you refer back to it, you cite it properly. Don't make it your own. Give the people credit who wrote it first, right? Now, these are some things that'll help you grow as a writer, because like I said, that information intake is extremely, extremely important, because the more information you intake, the more information you have to output. You're already living life, but at the same time, now you have other experts in your field that you can tap into their expertise. Let's go into paying attention to detail. Recently, recently I watched a movie, and I love this movie. I think I watched it one time, but I'm probably gonna go back and watch it at least 2 or 3 more times. The movie was called The Accountant, and in the movie The Accountant, the guy was so meticulous with his detail that he was not your typical accountant that everybody, somebody like me or you could call in as a CPA and say, hey, I need help with my taxes, or I need help with my business sheets. I need help with my books. No, he was the person that millionaires and billionaires called in if they felt that there was something going on. And his meticulousness was so detailed that he was able to pick out the patterns because he looked at things from a completely different perspective. He wasn't looking at it from, this is what should happen. He looked at it from, here's the pattern, here's the numbers from last year, here's the numbers from the year before, the year before that, the year before that. And based on his specificity, what he was looking for, he was able to go in and find those small details that may have been missed by someone else's eyes because they were only looking at 2 or 3 years, whereas he went back as far as 15 years. So that level to detail is important. It's not necessarily as important for you as a writer, but it does speak to the level of specificity that you need as you continue to grow. Certain things that you missed before, you'll pick up every single time now because you know what to look for. I tell my son all the time. I said, you know what? It's not the big things that make a difference in your life. It's those small little things that you may miss here and there, because those small little things form a pattern of either they form a pattern of laziness. Well, I'm just not going to wipe the counter in the kitchen today. No, do it every day. I'm not going to brush my hair every day. I don't have hair, but when I did, it was wavy lays. You have to form pay attention to those small details, because those small details make a big difference in the end. What are some of the small details that you want to look for as a writer? One is homophones. And let me give you the list, and then I'm going to come back through it because it's an extensive list. I have at least 8 things that you should look for as a writer to become better. 1 is homophones. 2 is run-on sentences. 3 is jargon, regional or technical jargon. 4 is passive voice. 5 is being way too wordy. 6 is punctuation. 7 is using the same word over and over again, being repetitive. Why would you do that? And then the last one is misused words. That last one, we see it all the time. And when I break it down for you, you're going to start laughing because we see it every single day. So what are homophones? Homophones are words that sound the same, but are spelled differently. And the different spellings have a different meaning. So some examples of homophones are the word there. There's 3 different spellings of the word there. THEIR, which represents ownership. THERE, which represents location, and THEY''RE, which means they are, which is saying that they are doing something, right? So that's a verb. The word to, TO versus TOO. If you see this, TO is basically saying I'm going to. It's I am giving this to. It's just like a transference. Whereas the other word TOO means extensive. It means, for example, too much. It was too hot. It was too cold. That's a word that describes something. Whereas one is transferring ownership and the other one is an example of excess. Next, your versus your. YOUR versus YOU''RE. One is today is your day. If you said today is your day, YOU''RE day, it means something completely different. and it doesn't even make sense. So you want to pay attention to words and make sure that you're using the proper word. The word its, its versus it apostrophe s. Again, one means something completely different. And then a misspelled word, which is a homophone, is the word are. A-R-E versus O-R. A-R-E versus O-R. And then there's another for, F-O-R versus F-O-U-R. One is, again, this is for someone, and F-O-U-R, the number 4. Pay attention to those homonyms and make sure that you're using the correct word when you're going back into your writing. Do it as you're reviewing your writing. Next thing is run-on sentences. If you just talk about if you have an extensively long sentence and, I went to the store and I was hungry and you don't have to do all that. Learn to break those sentences down into a single sentence that makes sense, and then create another sentence that makes sense. Learn when to use that period as opposed to continuing with the word and or the word or. You don't have to extend a sentence beyond its ending. Jargon. This one is huge. Jargon can be regional or technical. Depending on the field that you are in, there's a lot of technical jargon, especially in the IT field. There's a lot of jargon. In the phone industry, there's a lot of jargon. In the financial field, there's a lot of jargon. Any field that you specialize in, there's going to be jargon that is not understood by the common person. So if you're going to use jargon, then break it down so that the person who's reading it has a chance to understand exactly where you're coming from. You want to make sure that if you say something that is extremely technical, that's going to lose a 3-year-old or a 3rd grader, then you want to break that word down. Explain, give a simple definition. When you say that word, put parentheses right next to it. And in those parentheses, give a simple explanation of what it is. That's a simple way to get past jargon if you have to use it. Regional jargon. In Texas, we say things that are different than the way that people in New York says it. In Texas, we say soda, whereas in New York, they may say pop or cola. In Texas, we say certain things that are I say the term already all the time, because already is a form of agreement. Whereas I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine, Sean DeGoins out of California. And every time I would say already, he would say, what are you saying? I say already means agreement. It means I agree with you. It means it's a confirmation. It's just a term that we use here in Texas. So by us breaking that down, he was able to give me some of their regional terms. I was able to give him a few more of my regional terms. When you're writing, you have to realize that your readers are not just going to be in your local area or in your local specialty. Some of the readers for technical writing are going to be newcomers to that specific field, whereas some of the readers in more autobiographical or nonfiction work are going to read, but they may come from a different framework. They may come from a different paradigm. They may come from a different cultural background. Break it down so that the same jargon and the same vocabulary that you use locally can be used. They can understand it in Europe. They can understand it in Australia. They can understand it in Canada. They can understand it in Asia. Even though we all in most countries speak English, it's not the same English. There is European English, and then there's American English, and then there's other forms of English that are out there. Make sure that you break that jargon down. Give a simple explanation of what it means so that if that person is reading your writing, they're not stumped at your words because you're using too much local or regional jargon. Next thing is passive voice. Passive voice is when you're saying too much without saying, when you could have just said something simple. An example of passive voice is he was walking down the street. It sounds like a good sentence. It's a great sentence, but it can be even better by getting rid of that passive voice. Instead of saying he was walking down the street, which is passive, he walked down the street. You're saying the same thing, but instead of going backwards and adding that extra was or is, you can just get to the point. Be direct with what you're saying, which goes into my next point: being too wordy. Being too wordy. When you are too wordy, it loses some people. Someone like me, when I'm talking to someone who is using way too many words to get their point across, I'm going to say, "What do you mean? Just get to the point," because I don't want to hear A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Give me A and Z. How did you start? How did you finish? That's what I want to hear. So being succinct is important. It's an important skill. If you can say more by using less words, less terms, then do it. It's not going to hurt your writing. It actually strengthens your writing. I know it may lessen the number of pages because you were trying to fill in. You may have been trying to fill in with just a little bit extra, a few extra words here, a few extra words there, so that you get to your writing goal for the day. But when you look at sentences, if you can break them down, one word instead of three, or one word instead of an entire sentence, do it. It makes your writing stronger. People love reading strong writing, especially consistent readers. I don't like reading something that's taking me on a rabbit hole just to get back to what you just said in the last sentence. Make it succinct. Punctuation. Punctuation is huge. Is huge. Making sure that your apostrophes are in the right place. Making sure that your apostrophes are in the right place. A lot of times we use apostrophes, again, going back to the word your, Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. If you put that apostrophe in the wrong place, it's not the same word, and two, it isn't even a word. Commas. And another place for those apostrophes is using quotes, knowing when to put double apostrophe as opposed to, or parentheses is what I meant. Those parentheses, knowing when to use the double parentheses and when to use a single parentheses. I think, yeah, that part, right? Commas. A comma in a sentence can make a huge difference. A comma in a sentence can make a huge difference. I saw a sentence earlier that said something as simple as we want to eat grandma. What did you just say? You want to eat grandma, as opposed to, if you put that comma in the right place, we want to eat, comma, grandma. Now you're telling grandma we want to eat. It's a statement as opposed to I want to eat my grandma. Are you some type of cannibal? That's nasty, right? Then using the exclamation points. Exclamation points are for surprise or for excitement. You only need one exclamation point. You don't have to put 2 and 3 and 4 exclamation points to prove that something was super exciting. It looks good, especially in text and on social media. But when it comes down to actual technical writing, you don't want to use multiple exclamation points. You just need one to show your excitement. Using periods, using a period as opposed to a comma or a question mark. Know when to put a period and when to put a comma. If you put a comma where a period should have went, you just created a run-on sentence. If you don't have a period on a sentence, then that sentence continues on and on and on and on. If you put a period in the wrong place, again, it's an incomplete sentence. Make sure that you are putting those periods where they go. Those question marks. Question mark denotes a question. If you say I have a question and then you put a question mark, that's not the end of the sentence. That's not where that question mark goes. I have a question, comma, parentheses. What is your name? in parentheses, but the question mark goes inside of those parentheses. Those simple things make a huge difference. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Nobody wants to hear the same thing over and over and over again. If you have one word that you use all the time, use a thesaurus, use a dictionary, find a synonym that means the same thing that you can use over and over, not over and over again, but that you can use to replace that specific word. Because those changes, instead of seeing I said, he said, they said, we said, I said, he stated, she exclaimed. Simple change can make a huge difference because now you're not repeating the same thing over and over again. It shows that you have a limited vocabulary, but it also shows that you were too lazy to go and find a replacement. Don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. Right? Misspelled or not misspelled. The last one is misused words. We've all seen this multiple times. Sorry for your loss. Sorry for your loss. No, it's sorry for your loss. Sorry for your loss. If you put the wrong word in place, what you will end up doing is now you just shown that you didn't take the time to go and research the correct word that would have completed that sentence or that would have completed that thought. Make sure that you're using the right words when you are writing. So again, if you have issues with your writing, there's a few tools out there that can help you with improving your writing. One is just Microsoft Word. I'm old school. I know that there's Google Docs out now, and there's all other types of note-taking material that you can use. Go back to Microsoft Word. On Microsoft Word, it will highlight the incorrect words that are in place. It'll show you when a word is misspelled. You can use a simple grammar or spelling check on Microsoft Word to make corrections if you're beginning. And most of the time you can find a free version of Microsoft Word out there. Another great tool that a lot of writers have flocked to is Grammarly. Grammarly, Grammarly. Grammarly is a tool that will take chunks of your writing and it will correct it or give you suggestions on how to make it either more powerful, less passive, or again, make sure that your spelling and your punctuation is right. If you install Grammarly on your computer or on your phone, then when you are posting even on social media, it'll give you a correction. It'll let you know, hey, this is the incorrect phrase. Try this phrase instead. Those two tools will help you with a lot of your writing. There's also more advanced tools like Hemingway that you can use. There's tons of tools out there to help you improve as a writer. But to go back to the very beginning, some tools that will help you improve overall just on a regular basis is reading 30 minutes a day, listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts, reading magazines, newspapers, and blogs. Why? Because that information that you're intaking, one, it trains your mind on what to look for in writing, and it also gives you something, reference points that you can go back to as you're writing. How do you write this better? So, again, prayerfully, this was helpful to you. If it was, do me a favor, drop a like, drop a heart, and hit that share button because there's so many people out there that have those books that are still stuck in their heads, and we're trying to help them get those books out of their heads onto the paper so they can help people like you and me. If you go back and watch this video later, just leave a simple comment, replay squad, or watch it and leave comments as you're watching it. If this was helpful to you, let me know what's helpful to you. If there's something that you want to see or a tip that you want as a brand new or experienced writer, either to improve your writing or to sell more books, market yourself, build your brand, drop it in the comments. Let me know, because I got a few more videos coming for you guys. And pretty soon we're dropping a podcast that is the same as this, which is just lunchtime tips for writers. I love you guys. Ain't nothing y'all can do about it. I appreciate y'all for tuning in and watching. And once again, I love y'all to the moon and beyond. Let's keep dropping strong information, dropping those strong books. And you should be the next bestseller. Let's connect. Love y'all.